Hey guys, so we're going to start this virtual learning together with some Explain Everything, and hopefully they'll get better as they go, but this is my first shot at it, so bear with me. Wanted to start reviewing a little bit where we left off. We left off with genetics and DNA. So the DNA code are bases along the DNA strand, and that's a code that specifies the order of amino acids. And if you remember, your amino acids are to build your proteins because your entire body is made up of proteins. So each code for an amino acid is 3 base pairs long. So if you have your DNA molecule, each side can unzip like this, and you have any combination of A's, T's, C's, and G's. And hopefully you remember a little bit that A always pairs with T, T always pairs with A, C with G, and G with C. However, when we're actually making proteins, we don't just use DNA. It has to use this other molecule called RNA, or ribonucleic acid. There are 5 carbons in that sugar. It's a smaller sugar molecule. It's going to replace the thymine with the uracil. U is a smaller letter than T in your head. I remember I walked out of the doorway for some of you guys to try to get you thinking U is smaller than T. And DNA is double-stranded where RNA is single-stranded. So that RNA can end up leaving the nucleus so that it can build your protein. So how does it actually make this protein? The DNA is a code for the RNA. The DNA will separate and act as a pattern to make RNA, and the complementary RNA nucleotides will match up with the original DNA strand. And this is what we left off doing, and I think most of you got it after Codon Bingo, where I'd draw a DNA and you guys would end up converting it into the complementary DNA. And then from that complementary strand, I'd have you convert it into RNA. T still pairs with U, U still pairs with A, and C with G. So hopefully that's a little bit of review for you guys. The RNA strand will separate from the DNA strand. It will carry that message called an mRNA. And then from that mRNA, you read it in 3 bases long called a codon. We played Codon Bingo for the days right before this whole corona apocalypse happened, and hopefully you remember how to use codons. I gotta figure out where my next slide is, so bear with me. So this is just a pretty picture. Your DNA splitting, making your RNA codon from that. This would be your RNA right here. Let me pick a different color so you can see it better. But this would be your RNA strand from your DNA, and it's going to end up coding for a protein to make all of the traits that you need. tRNAs are just a fancy word for transfer RNAs. Those are like taxis in my head that pick up the RNA molecules. Again, this should hopefully be some review, and it's going to go to the RNA molecule. So as we continue going on, really, really important to remember each genetic code is determined by a codon. And I really hope you remember codon charts because we did a lot of those before we left. One thing that I wanted to start off with some new content for you guys is this thing called gene expression. So some genes can be switched on or off based on what the cells need. So right now in your bodies, hopefully you're all healthy and not sick, and you're going to have your skin cells acting like normal skin cells, doing what they need to do. Unless you're injured, your skin cells mitosis isn't going to turn on to make more skin cells. So the only way your skin cells will turn on is if it needs to be turned on. So gene expression is when the structural gene is a DNA segment that codes for the protection for a particular polypeptide. That's just a fancy word for a protein. So whenever it codes for a particular protein, most of your body is proteins. So the activity of that structural gene is controlled by the operator gene. The operator gene must be at an active site to be switched on to cause transcription to start and switched off to stop transcription. And all that really means is it has to be at the correct spot on the ribosome to read that codon, to code for the correct amino acid chain, to then make the correct protein. So if you get a cut, a scratch, a scrape, or something like that, it's going to read the DNA sequence to make more skin cells. It will switch on to start making skin cells. It'll build those amino acids together to make more skin. And it'll switch off when you've healed that cut, scrape, scratch, whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of cool. Something that I just am dorky and find really, really interesting. In DNA segments, there's things called exons, and those code for amino acids. Those are found on the codon charts that you practiced, and then there's introns. Introns are segments of DNA that do not code for a particular amino acid, so therefore they don't make a protein. So then it leaves scientists questioning, what the heck are introns for? So, in theory, again, this is where the dorky science in me comes out. In theory, the introns could be for the things that make you up that are non-physical, like your reactions to things, your preferences, pheromones, hormone production, all those extras that aren't actually physical features in you. So it's really kind of cool to think about. We're not really sure about introns. Discover that someday and make millions, and then you can come teach my class about introns and exons, and that would be awesome. The Regents exam loves gene expression in the environment. So something kind of cool to think about also with gene expression is that the environment can actually cause your genes to switch on and off. The Regents picks weird things every year. I don't know why, but they love Himalayan rabbits. They're really kind of funny little rabbits. If it's below 33 degrees, the rabbit's fur will turn black. And then if it's above 33 degrees, they turn white. The reason they turn black is because black attracts sunlight. Therefore, they end up heating up. So they've actually done crazy experiments with these Himalayan rabbits, and they've taped like ice packs to their backs, so then they will turn black in certain spots, and they've spelled words and all sorts of things like that, just kind of to be cruel, but to prove to you that environment can actually cause genes to switch on and off. A more like logical, relevant one for some of us get freckles in the summertime more than in the wintertime. Well, why does that happen? Anyone ever think about that? The reason we get freckles more often in the summertime, I get freckles more often in the summertime, and 2 of my kids do also. It actually creates more melanin in your skin, which creates a slightly darker skin tone, so you're less likely to get sunburned. You're still going to get sunburned if you're like myself, but you're less likely to. So that's a factor. The environment, the amount of sunshine, actually produces more skin pigment to try to protect your skin. I don't know if it's less fun, but another one that the Regents talked about one year, a couple years ago, was if they locked 2 identical twins in McDonald's, what's going to happen? Are they going, one of them, well, let's do this. Let's put one at Mickey D's, that's the Golden Arches. Should have made it golden. And then the other twin is going to stay home. How in the heck are they going to look different later on? Is that environment going to cause their genes to express differently? Most people would agree the one who's locked in McDonald's for their entire life, their genes, like literally genes, are going to express slightly larger than the other twin. Just another example of gene expression on the environment. And that is it for the first kind of intro to genetics review from what we did with protein synthesis, that you have all of the genetics in your body cells from your parents, and then you have to read those chromosomes letter by letter, A's, T's, C's, and G's, convert it into RNA, which is A's, U's, C's, and G's, and then make a protein out of it by using those codon charts. Amino acids build proteins, and then how our proteins actually are reflected based on our needs, if they're switched on or off. And then sometimes the environment can play a factor in that as well. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.